Hello and welcome to the Refs Need Love To podcast, a show that gives you a real, raw, and behind-the-scenes view of one of the hardest jobs on the pitch, the referee. I'm your host, David Gerson, with 10 years of experience and 1,200 matches under my belt. You could find me at refsneedlove2.com, on TikTok, and on Instagram. This week, we're going to be talking about near-death experiences, being a reporter at the U.S. Women's National Team game, and some special notes from the mailbag. First off, I almost died about 3 weeks ago. And that's not me like being facetious or joking, like being surprised about something, getting some like good news. Literally almost died. I was rear-ended by a tractor trailer on the highway. I was going about 70 miles an hour on my commute up to work, and cars slammed on their brakes in front of me. I slammed on my brakes. I almost hit the car in front of me, but thankfully I didn't. But the tractor trailer, the 18-wheeler behind me, did not stop in time. They slammed into the back of my car and totaled my car. Amazingly, I was able to walk away from the accident. Yes, I was a little sore. I was certainly shaken up and scared, but literally was able to walk away from the accident without any serious injury. If that truck driver had not been as aware as he was, had not slammed on his brakes when he did, if he was a half a second slower, I could have been killed or at least seriously injured. I am so grateful that he was paying attention at 6:50 in the morning as we were driving up to work or wherever he was going. I will tell you, truck driver, the truck did not have insurance. Thankfully, I have, and it's mandatory in the state of Georgia, non-insured driver's insurance. So my car was covered. I even got my rental car covered. It didn't hurt us badly financially at all. I am so thankful for my health, and then financially everything wound up working out, which is great. But I got to tell you, it makes you think about just being grateful and thankful for everything that you have. And I have a lot to be thankful for in my world right now. My family is healthy and thriving. All three of my kids are doing well and they're healthy. My marriage is strong. My wife and I have been together almost 21 years. And I feel as close to her now as I probably ever have. We're both running crazy. We both have side hustles. My wife's got multiple side hustles, and she's making it happen, and she's unbelievable. My parents are still alive. My dad is 82 years old. He experienced kidney failure or kidney issues with his kidneys about 3 years ago. All of the data says that man should be dead right now. And amazingly, his kidneys are still functioning, only at 13%, and he still has to do some dialysis, but he is still alive. And I get to talk to him almost every single day. My gosh, I was on the phone with him yesterday, and we were like crying to each other about how thankful we are, knowing the humble beginnings that his parents came from coming to this country and how far we've come, which is just unbelievable. My mom is alive. She's 80 years old. We love where we live. We love our neighbors. We love our community. I have close friends. I have more close friends than I can count on one hand. I probably have two full hands, probably 8 or 9 people that I would say are what I consider almost be best friends. People who I can say anything to, and that I'd hang out with anytime for any amount of time, which is amazing. Friends from high school, friends from college, and just friends from my life now, and even my professional life. It's unbelievable. So I can't even begin to say how wonderful that is. Personally, I am as healthy and as fit as I have been in the last 15 years. No joke. Due to high school reffing during the week and club on the weekend, I have gotten down to 173 pounds. I haven't been that weight in 20 years. I feel great. My full-time professional work could not be better right now. I've recently had my most daring and successful branding creative campaign of my life launched last week, and it was a massive risk. It could have definitely gone wrong. I could have definitely lost my job had it gone really poorly. And it was a freaking hit. And that is a pun intended for baseball fans, okay, because it has something to do with baseball too. For those who don't know, I run marketing and branding for a very large B2B company, business to business, historically very conservative company before I came there years ago. But ever since I've joined, I keep trying to push the envelope, become more progressive, more memorable in our marketing. Before I started, I think they had generated like $3 million in digital marketing campaign revenue or leads or opportunities, whatever it was. And just in the last 7-8 months, we've developed tens of millions of dollars of opportunities for our company using new technologies and new ways of working. That is huge. But this week, we actually really pushed the envelope and generated significant buzz, excitement. I had calls and congratulations from CEOs of major companies in my city give me a shout, peers, other marketers. More praise than I've ever gotten in my life for doing anything else professionally came this week. I worked my ass off for it. I took massive risks, but as they say, nothing in life worth doing is ever easy. And that brings me to refereeing. I am so thankful that I have this in my life. And I'm not talking about the channel Refs Need Love. I'm talking about just being a referee. Even without Instagram, TikTok, website, all that other stuff, being a referee brings me so much joy and a release. I love showing up to the field every week and seeing my old friends, meeting new friends. I love working hard on the pitch, being part of the beautiful game. I love it when coaches come up post-game and are generally relieved. I feel like that's the look on their face, that they had a referee who would enforce the laws of the game and keep the match under control. And it enables them to focus on being a coach as opposed to being a pseudo referee, or as that line is, trying to keep the referee honest or something like that, or get calls for the team. It's not that I'm biased in any way, shape, or form, but I'm there, I'm present, I'm 150% in the game. And I'm making sure that the laws of the game are enforced and we're actually able to play football or soccer out there, which is great. I will tell you, lastly, just as I round out or summarize this topic here, the Refs Need Love 2 channel has grown beyond my wildest dreams. Beyond. 3 years ago, I never, ever would have dreamed that I'd be interviewing the captain of the U.S. women's national team as a representative of one of the most widely watched and discussed referee platforms in the world. Refs Need Love too. Getting media credentials? What is up with that? And I got to tell you, I really don't know how I got here aside from just pouring my heart and soul into what I do every day. On this channel, I don't post necessarily what's most timely or what people tell me to do. I post on topics and issues and plays that resonate with me. If I've watched it on TV and I had a visceral reaction, that's what I want to talk about. If I see something, I'm like, ooh, that's interesting. I don't know that people know about that. That's what I want to post. And I post things that I think referees will appreciate, my people. I try to be the voice for the voiceless, for the referees who can't say what they want to say on the pitch, but that we need coaches, players, and parents to hear, whether it's on the pitch or off. These past few weeks alone, referees around the country and all over the world, this is crazy. I've shipped over 150 different orders on my website for merchandise, going to Guam, going to Australia, Hawaii. I had people reach out to me from Nepal, from Zimbabwe. I've had people all across Africa, Asia, Europe, reach out to me and send me notes of thanks or gratitude, or just to connect and say, hey, I'm so glad there's someone out there speaking for us, that's speaking my language and helping the world understand what we go through and what we try and do every day. It fills my bucket to know that I am able to support them, because I know how little support there normally is for all of us. To summarize this, bring this one to a close now. I try and give my heart and soul to everyone and everything that I do. Sometimes it's not enough. Sometimes I fail. Sometimes I get lambasted. Sometimes I make a call that people disagree with in my videos. It happens. Sometimes I fall on my face. But I am thankful. I am fulfilled. I am grateful to be alive today and doing this with you, to be quite honest. So yesterday, I was at the U.S. women's national team match against Japan. I don't know. I'd been talking to a few people lately for U.S. soccer, and I'd been knowing that the She Believes Cup was coming to Atlanta. And I don't know. I just got it in my head. You know what? I'm going to apply for a press credential. Just whatever. Let's see what happens. I've got a couple 100,000 followers. Why not? Who knows? And wouldn't you know, literally Friday night, game's on Saturday, I get an email from the U.S. soccer press coordinator, and she's like, hey, you can still come. We can't approve video. You can't take video in the stadium because there's live broadcasters, blah, blah, blah. But you can come and you can report on the match and come to the press conference. I'm like, okay, I'll do that. And so Saturday morning, literally the day of the game, 8:30 a.m., I got the email, your press credential has been approved to come to the stadium to pick it up. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so going. And I was literally just so jazzed, so excited, so fired up. I had no idea what I was going to do when I got to the game. I'm just like, okay, I'm just going to go. I'm going to capture some footage around the stadium, whatnot. And so that's what I did. I went, I got recognized. I was walking through the crowd, taking a video of the crowd there, which, by the way, was a record-breaking crowd. They had the largest crowd ever for a friendly match for the U.S. women's national team ever in this country, over 50,000 people. 50,000 people, man. That is a larger crowd than I think it's, I don't know, something like 15 of the 20 Premier League stadiums that like their capacity. That's how big that crowd is. It is a massive crowd, and it was loud and engaged. It was wonderful. It was wonderful. And to see the looks on everyone's faces there in Atlanta, because I think this is the first time that they've come to Atlanta to play a match in over 20 years. The looks on everyone's faces, everyone. I mean, again, it's not just little girls coming to these games. It's everyone. It's men, it's women. It's a very diverse crowd as well. It was so cool. So cool. So I was so excited to be there. Hey, here are my notes from the match watching the referees. Okay, first off, watching the refs warm up. Every professional match I go to, I mean, they are doing a proper warm-up every single time, as you can imagine. But that's what professionals do. You know, getting loose, doing those sprints, getting mentally ready, visualizing the game. And I'll tell you one thing, too. The assistant referees, yes, they wore up together as a three-person crew. Even the fourth official's getting a little bit loose as well. But the assistant referees go to their respective sidelines, and they practice and visualize and go through the motions of their sprints and their movements, you know, on the sideline they're going to be on, which I think is really interesting. And I've never seen that at a grassroots match, but I think, you know, as you get to the pros, that's what it takes, is making sure that everything in your area, you know, when you get there is going to be right, that there's not going to be any obstructions, and that you can visualize yourself getting ready for every possible scenario. The other thing I think about when I watch those people is, again, just the years of the exceptionally hard work, dedication, and sacrifice that they put in to get on that pitch today. It's a Canadian crew. And I'm sorry I didn't research the people before I got onto the pod here today. I probably should have looked back and seen how many matches they do and what year leagues they ref in. But I mean, I can tell you, they have put in thousands upon thousands of matches to be where they are. The dedication, the sacrifice. They have all started out at some grassroots level on some pitch someplace. And again, they've worked those really challenging local adult league games. You know, they have done the highest levels of academy. They've done the semi-professional. They've done it all. They've traveled all across North America, maybe even to South America, doing matches in outrageously difficult environments, very challenging positions. Oh, and by the way, it was a full female crew. So these are 4 women. Okay, so they're not just rare because they've reached the pinnacle of refereeing. Okay, that's pretty rare in itself, but they are female officials. Again, when the work that I do, I pretty much see 90% men, if not more than 90% men reffing. So these are very special women. There are probably only 10 other female referees in the United States and Canada who could possibly step into the position they're in. 10. Okay? Literally 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That's how few it is. It is a rare air to get to where they've been, the challenges that they face, putting personal lives on hold to go do what they do, not making a ton of money, as well. They are leaving it all on the line to chase that dream to be a professional referee and make it on that field today. Oh, and just by the way, and I thought it was so funny too, they go through all the motions. Not only do they have to deal with being physically ready to go, which we're going to talk about in a second, but they also have to think about the coin toss and where are we lining up and walking out of the tunnel and even getting the match ball, which, by the way, the match ball was being driven out by this little remote control Audi. I say little. This thing is 3 feet long and like a foot high. But talking with the remote control driver, okay, where are you going to pull the ball to? What are you going to do? Like all this stuff, it's all these things that they have to think about. So it was just fun. They looked amazing. They looked so professional and just so much pressure in front of that huge crowd, but they did wonderful. Okay. Game kicks off, and oh my gosh, on the very first counterattack, I don't know if you saw the game, but 35 seconds in, a beautiful ball was played from Japan's own defensive third, like right outside their penalty area, into space in front of a Japanese winger who was poised to counterattack, man. And I'm telling you, she runs into this ball, and literally the breath left my lungs. I was like, oh my gosh. And she put the ball off the far post. She was on the right side and put it right across the goalkeeper. Goalkeeper dove, with the ball like bounced a little bit over her arm, dink off of the post and in. And I am just thinking to myself, man, isn't that referee thankful that she was doing all of that to warm up pre-match? Sometimes I go to games and I'll work with referees and I'm warming up. I do my 20-minute before game warm up, and I'll talk with some refs, young and old, and I'm like, yeah, I warm up during the match. I'm like, what? No, because at a professional level, or really any level, I mean, you shouldn't be holding back just because you need to get in position to make a play early in the match. I have to tell you, if I went from nothing to a dead sprint without a warm up, my hamstrings would rip. I guarantee it. So that's why I do the fitness during the week. That's why I do my pregame warm-up. That's why I am ready and warm and ready to go, because you never know if literally 20 seconds of the match, 10 seconds of the match, you're needing to sprint on down to get a key match decision right. This ball bounced off the post. It could have easily come across the goal line, and you would have had a key match decision. There was no VAR. There was no Hawkeye technology in this game. That's why it's so important to do that pre-match warm up and have that fitness ready to be able to run as soon as possible. I will also tell you some things that I also noticed in this game is just, again, positioning being a balance of possibility and proximity. I found that this referee in particular was not one of those who wants to be 10 yards from the play at all times. She really was just trying to anticipate where was the ball going to be in the next phase of play and trying to get herself into that position. Actually, a lot of times in this match, I saw her a good 20 yards from the play, but it never felt like she was, out of position to make a call. She was just trying to anticipate when is there going to be a potential for a play and close in at that time, and to try and be upfield in advance of the attacking play as needed. Also, the Atlanta United pitch is a massive pitch. So it's the same size as Old Trafford. It's the largest pitch in the MLS. It's one of the largest pitches that are probably in professional soccer. Yes, if you're trying to close down everything and be within 10 yards of the play on that pitch, and you're going to be running like crazy mileage. But I thought she did a good job of anticipation, thinking about possibility, where is that ball going to be played next, and trying not to overrun herself and run herself ragged trying to keep up with the ball on that massive pitch. Also, I would say too, the game dictated that as well. I think the USA felt like they had at least 70 or 75% of the possession. And even when Japan had possession, a lot of their possession was in their own defensive half. It really was the US attacking. So that kind of dictated where she was on the pitch too. I will say I noticed the referee was allowing some lighter fouls to go without a whistle in the first 10 or 15 minutes. And it's interesting. For me, I'm always looking for a foul in the first 10 minutes just to set the tone. Just, hey guys, I'm going to be calling fouls today. If you thought you were just going to go around hacking people, it's not going to happen. But she let stuff go early. And I guess she was waiting to see how the teams were going to react to it. And then about 15 minutes in, there was 3 or 4 foul calls, relatively quick succession. Boom. It's like she tried using her voice. She tried letting them figure it out by herself. And then she had to step in and get involved. Also, one of the things I noticed, which is a good reminder for people as well, is a referee doesn't need to call every foul. Sometimes a player gets fouled and they're just able to keep on playing. They keep possession and keep on playing. Do we have to yell advantage every single time? No. just let them continue. We can say verbally, and maybe she was on the field saying, I see it. Hey, next time, don't pull like that, whatever. She might be communicating, but she didn't do any mechanics showing advantage. And obviously sitting as far away as I was, I couldn't hear her yell advantage if she was saying that. It's just interesting. A couple fun things. Hearing the crowd boo really loudly at even the most obvious calls. Obviously, it was a very partisan USA crowd. I'd probably say 99% of the crowd was pulling for the USA. And so when there was a foul against the US, even if it's like a clear trip, like really clear trip, the crowd boos. And so I think that's just so funny. This referee is outrageously accomplished. It's a very clear foul, and yet people still boo and jeer just because it was called against their team. And I think that's so important for us to remember as grassroots referees, is you may be a FIFA certified official, be on the FIFA panel, be reffing in front of 50,000 fans at an international match for the U.S. women's national team, okay, and Japan, two huge teams, recent World Cup winners, okay, and yet people will still boo you when you make the right call. So I think for all of us out there just putting around as grassroots officials, don't sweat it when people dissent on your calls. It happens to the best of us. Okay. This one was really interesting. So I'm a big Lindsey Horan fan, as you'll hear later in this conversation. I think she's really underrated for her creativity, for her toughness, for her reliability, for the ability to score big goals when the team needs big goals scored. She's a physical presence defensively in the midfield, but I got to tell you, she is really technical and gifted as it relates to her distribution on the pitch, opening things up, demanding the ball and being comfortable with the ball on her feet, and those little passes that kind of unbalance the defense or pull people in, and those long passes to really open things up. And it felt like Japan knew it, because every time Lindsey got on the ball, it felt like she had someone on her. And she had one or two things that I thought could have been called fouls that weren't called fouled early in the game. But about 28 minutes into the match, there was about 2 times that fouls came, like boom, and then a minute later, another foul came. And I wrote in my notes here, I'm curious if and when a card is going to come for persistent infringement. And then wouldn't you know it, there's a third call in the 43rd minute, and right after that, in the 45th plus 1, she was fouled again, and just inside of the attacking half. And this is not a spa situation. It was just she kept getting like hacked. They were fouling her or pulled down, and the yellow card was awarded for persistent infringement. She was again fouled in the 48th minute, and it was just a little bit of a shove, but just a normal foul, common foul, no card given or needed at that point. But I have to tell you, once that card was given on Lindsey, then she was able to have a little bit more time on the ball after that. And because the cards make a difference, it says, hey, listen, don't foul this person anymore. Okay. I'm warning everyone, you keep hacking her, the more cards are going to come, because it wasn't the same player. It was different players. And I asked her this, kind of asked this question later when I was at the press conference. But she's like, come on, it's after a few fouls. It could be a few different players. I expect the referee's going to protect me if they see that happening. And great job on the ref for doing that. Another thing in my notes, there was a really crazy sequence in the 29th minute of the match where it looked like Alex Morgan fouled a Japanese player, pushed him down in the back, and maybe it's not a hard foul, but right outside the penalty area. And then she herself was fouled after trying to run onto the ball, that because she got free, because she pushed that Japanese player, someone else came in and tackled her. And the referee allowed the contact that Alex had done to go, but then threw a yellow card, because at that point she's right outside the penalty area, and gave a yellow card to the Japanese player for stopping a promising attack. And I totally get why Japan would be upset about that. The referee had let other leg contact go just literally a couple seconds beforehand, and now called a foul at a critical juncture for stopping the promising attack. And this was not the only time this happened in the game. There was one other time where I saw some contact between an American player, Japanese player, and they let that contact go, which I think could have been fine. But then a couple seconds later, the American player was brought down harder or clearer and awarded that foul in favor of the U.S. This is interesting to me because generally speaking, I think referees are more apt to call fouls in favor of the defensive team because it can lead to a key match decision or a goal scoring opportunity. So this one was interesting that she let the contact go in favor of the attacking team and then wound up having to give a foul and a very promising attacking free kick that a goal could have been scored on. So I don't know. It was just something that I noticed I thought was interesting. One thing that also very interesting I wanted to talk about is 80% of the fouls were called in the United States' favor at this match. Was that referee biased? It's being played in America for the U.S. national team. No. The United States had 75% of the possession for a large part of the game. And if you have possession, you are far more likely to get calls in your favor. Okay? That's the way it works. It doesn't mean that a referee doesn't like you. It just may be that your style of play does not yield lots of fouls called in your favor. If you are a team who likes to sit deep and then you counterattack really quickly, very direct play, you're not going to have a lot of fouls in your favor versus a team who is more of a possession-based team, a team who builds up, a team who dribbles through the midfield a lot, has a lot of players who can dribble with the ball in space or make people miss and cause fouls as the U.S. women's national team does. Their midfield, their wingers and their fullbacks are extremely good with the ball at their feet and can do a lot of progressive dribbles. And if you do a lot of progressive dribbles, especially in the attacking half, you will get fouls called in your favor. It is just how it is. So don't come up to me at halftime and say, hey, there's been 15 fouls called against my team and only 4 fouls for my team without having some situational awareness and understanding, well, sir, you just dumped the ball down the field. What am I going to do? Not one. This team is dribbling with the ball at their feet and you're grabbing and pulling and tripping them. Therefore, they're getting fouls. That's why it happens. A couple other things that I thought was really fun. This is at the end of the game. There was a head injury on a Japanese player in like the 85th minute of the match, I think it was. And so play was stopped and it stopped for a couple minutes and the ball was dropped to our goalkeeper. Okay. And Japan had moved up the field to wait for a punt because they thought that's what was going to happen or, play it short to one of the center backs. But everyone had moved up the field, so there was no one to play it short to. And the referee is all the way at the center circle waiting for a punt. The Japanese players are all the way back towards midfield waiting for a punt. And Listenair, the goalkeeper for the U.S., just stood there with the ball at her feet. As she should. The play was restarted. The ball was dropped. That was the restart. She doesn't have to do anything. She doesn't have to pick up the ball. She doesn't have to play it. She literally stood there for a full minute. I'm talking 60 seconds. 60 full seconds. Japan's down 1 goal with only 4 minutes left in regulation time. And no one closed her down. It was so hilarious. Eventually, a Japanese player, like their striker, ran from, 40 yards away to get Alyssa to pick up the ball or decide to play the ball. But I just thought that was so hilarious. I've actually seen that in a match. My son was playing a match where he was a goalkeeper again, and the other team had kicked the ball long. It was late in the match. He was up 1 goal, and he just stood there with the ball at his feet. Ball came to him. He didn't use his hands, and he just trapped it and stood there. And the other team was playing like a half-field press. Like they were not pressing the ball until my son's team had made it up like to the halfway point, and then they started their trap and press. So my son just stood there. And wouldn't you know, the referee, who's a friend of mine, good guy, referee was like, come on, Keith, play it. Come on, Keith, play it. My son, being a referee, knew the laws, and he just stood there. And so the referee, after about a minute, finally is, come on, keeper. And then he blows his whistle and shows my son a yellow card for, I guess, delay of the restart. I guess it's not really a restart or whatever it is, delaying the game. I have no idea what he was thinking, but showed my son a yellow card. And so thankfully, a very experienced referee was his assistant referee on the same side that my son was on. And he called him over. He's like, yeah, it's perfectly legal. Don't do that. So he took the card back and dropped the ball to my son again. But it's just funny. A lot of people are just not situationally aware or don't know the laws of the game. It's a drop ball. the ball's live. It's dropped to the keeper. Keeper could decide to do what they want with it. They could pick it up, and then they have to distribute it after a couple seconds. 6 seconds is the law. Or they can just leave it at their feet. It's not her bad. Japan was just not situationally aware, and a full minute ran off the clock. Okay, so that was the end of the game. U.S. won 2-1. And then after the game, I had the opportunity to go to the mixed media room, which is, or they call it the mix room or something like that, where the press can go and interview players after the match. Now, my Japanese is not very good. Gato, konnichiwa, and that's about it. I used to know how to greet people who used to come to my facility from around the world. It was like, dozo yoku gato, I don't know, something like that. It's messed up now. I used to have it perfect. It was really good. I don't speak Japanese, so I didn't interview any of the Japanese players, but the Japanese players came out first and their media talked to them, and that was really cool to watch. But then we waited about an hour because the U.S. had a meeting after the game, and we could request certain players to come on out and ask questions, which was really cool. So I really wanted to interview Alex and Lindsay because they're both physical players who do get fouled a lot, and I want to talk to them about, I don't know, I didn't have good questions. I'll just say I was writing them while I was standing there. But the question that I wanted to ask Lindsay was, it was a competitive and well-played match, but the heat of the match seemed rather low to you when you compare the game compared to Brazil. Because literally a month ago, the U.S. women's team had played Brazil, and it was a hot, like saucy hot affair. I thought it was a chance Brazil was going to beat Canada yesterday, and it would be a Brazil-U.S. final again, but Canada won on PKs. But that Brazil game was crazy. And I wanted to ask the question, do you feel that the heat of the match or it being really hotly contested and fiery is a result of the referee not having control of the game or having control of the game versus the players and the team on the pitch? Because I was curious if she was going to say, it's not the referee. It's definitely all about the players on that. That's what I was looking for. But I didn't phrase my question really well. I stumbled over it when I was so nervous. My hands were sweaty. I'm like, what the hell am I doing here? There's all these TV cameras around and actual real reporters with real microphones. I'm such a hack. I tell you, this is just so funny. So I got my question out and she did answer it pretty well. I will say I posted a video on Instagram and TikTok. I had a first question that didn't go so well because I kind of misspoke and I was like, hey, it seemed like the intensity of the match wasn't that high today compared to the Brazil match. And she's like, I think it was very intense. I was like, oh my gosh, I've just embarrassed myself in front of the captain of the U.S. women's national team. I'm never going to get to ask another question at a press conference ever again. But I recovered and I said, I'm so sorry. And I rephrased it. Of course, I started with congratulations on the win on your goal today too. But I don't know. I'm so curious. I was really having a hard time coming up with questions that would be relevant coming from a referee representing referees. So I would love for you guys out there, if you're listening to this podcast, can you please send me some questions? What would you ask professional soccer players from a ref's perspective? What do you think would be appropriate to ask? And what do you think would be interesting to get from their perspective? Because I got to tell you, the reporters there were asking lots of different stuff. They were asking about, what do you think about Atlanta? Obviously, the game was in Atlanta. What kind of music do you guys play pre-match? How do you feel about this? How do you feel about this and your position? So there were a lot of different questions, but they've got to be somewhat related to being on the team. So just help me out with that, guys. I'd appreciate it. I was going to ask questions to Alyssa Nair, the goalkeeper, but she didn't come out for the mixed media. I think she's really shy, and there's nothing wrong with that. My questions were not going to be earth-shattering or groundbreaking, but I was going to ask her about that drop ball situation. And then I was going to ask her a funny one about what are her favorite methods to waste time as a goalkeeper at the end of the match. So I don't know. Yeah, I need more questions, guys. Help me out. All right. So that was a lot of fun. And I can't wait to do it again soon. All right. Here's the next segment here is just notes from the mailbag. And this is from a gentleman named Bob Smith who sent me an email he went to my website and then sent me a message. And I was like, oh my gosh, I love this. I want to put it as a blog on my website. And he sent this to me and I just love it. I want to share it with you. So here it is. It says, hi, I started seeing you in my Facebook Reels feed and I've come to very much enjoy your content. I enjoy going through your blog articles now. I started refereeing soccer in 2016 and it has been one of my favorite hobbies. I really do love it. My pathway into the beautiful game is probably fairly standard. I didn't play when I was younger, aside from a single half season when I was 10 or so in the mid-'80s, where my dad got me shin guards, quote unquote, that looked more like slip-on padded tubes. I was so embarrassed by this, I can still feel the cringe. Anyways, I got involved when my oldest daughter signed up for soccer at age 6 and they needed coaches. I tried to be a good dad, and so I volunteered, knowing nothing about it other than what you might have learned in gym class. But if I decide to do something, I want to do it well. So I started reading up on the game, bought coaching books, started watching it a little on TV, slowly turning from that soccer sucks uninformed jerk mindset into someone who began to appreciate the game itself. So for the next 9 years, I coached all 3 of my daughters through youth soccer. And when that journey was over, I was like, what now? My oldest decided to ref as her first job. And I thought to myself, why not do that? I can still be connected to and part of the game I have come to absolutely love with a passion. For me, part of the reward in coaching was feeling like I'm giving something to the kids, mentorship, role modeling, and all that. I realized that continuing my involvement, but as a referee, I can still do that. I can distinctly remember as a coach being confused at calls. I was never a yeller. I'd get a call I hated or misunderstood and thought it was unfair or whatever, and then I'd be mad about it, ticked off, angry, annoyed, however you want to describe it. But I would never dissent, aside from the emotional outbursts you mentioned on your podcast. It's pretty impossible to just flat out eliminate those, but never would I yell or argue. But what sticks out when I look back was my lack of understanding of the laws of the game. I can remember telling my players to go stand on the ball until the ref tells you to move at a free kick while their teammates get reset. Why? Because I saw other coaches doing that. I had not read the laws of the game. Seriously, how many coaches have actually done that? How many coaches actually know much at all about the laws of the game, especially at the grassroots level? Now, on the other side of the whistle, I actually still have the opportunity to coach. I only do high school and lower games. Whatever level I'm doing, I am always communicating. I clearly state out loud to the kids what the call is. That was a push. Decent challenge. But you were too late. You need to get there sooner if you want to use your body like that. Or, one of his favorites, I know you were going after the ball. That's why this is just a free kick and not a card. You missed and you tripped him. It's an accident. It's still a foul though. Unquote. I also communicate the positives. When there's good contact play, I tell them. Example of blue and white challenging each other on a running ball. Nice, physical, tons of shoulder contact, jockeying each other for the ball. When they separate after something like that happens, I tell them, hey, good play. That's the kind of contact I want to see out there. Good done. Well done, both of you. I found that this continued stream of conversation from me seems to keep the players focused on the play and not on the call. There's no surprises for me on something. They learn what to expect as the game is going on. I get very little dissent from the players these days. I found that especially the older players, the teenagers, have gotten very good about talking to me during the game when they didn't like something, voicing their unhappiness with me to something like, hey, ref, sir, I didn't like that, as that's what they're saying. I got all ball. I didn't push. Said in a normal, sometimes inflected like question or voice. It's really satisfying to work with a kid who is acting in a mature way in the face of a situation they don't like. I feel like I've done a good job when that happens. When I recall those moments in the handshakes after the game, I will always try and say something to that player who questioned me in a manner, something like, hey man, thank you for talking to me about the call in that way. I know you hated it. You handled it like a pro. I can't ask for more than that. Unquote. The coaches and parents, on the other hand, my goodness, it's frustrating when the ref and crew and the U12 players are the only grown-ups at the field that day. I love that message. And I emailed him and asked him if I could share this. He said, yeah, definitely, be all good. He did send me a second email with a little more background. Of his daughters, the older of the two, Ellie, is a pretty shy, non-confrontational person. And although I don't think she was a referee. I didn't think she was on the receiving end of much dissent. She didn't like the pressure and gave it up. She's always kept playing the game, though. He loves that, and was an absolute rock star runner and constantly recruited by the cross-country coach in the fall. But she loves soccer so much, she'd rather be second string on the soccer team than far and away the best runner on the cross-country team. It says a lot about the love of the game. His middle daughter, Hannah, did more games than her older sister as a ref. She's a pretty fearless person, in his opinion, and she definitely took some abuse. Fortunately, I was there on the sideline stretching on the other team's side in the halfway line when I overheard, hard not to overhear him, one of the coaches yell out to you, "You are crazy. That's not a foul. You're insane." And she took Oh, and the look she gave me, the daughter's looking at her dad here, the look she gave me just broke my heart and made me proud at the same time. Getting emotional reading this. Her eyes met his, and he just said out loud, this is what the look she gave her dad. Dad, I need to do something here with this guy, but I'm afraid to. And he just gave her a small head nod. And he could see the relief in her face as she confidently walked over to him and showed him the yellow and ordered him to stop speaking to her like that. I have to tell you, as a parent, when you see your child go from being a little boy or a girl to all of a sudden have to be an adult in that high pressure situation, it is so gratifying. You are so proud of your child for doing that. It is hard. Life is freaking hard sometimes. But to see your child go down deep and pull up that strength, that inner strength on their own to do that and to take control of the situation like that, to not let themselves be bullied when there's 30 players on and sitting around the pitch and 100 plus parents and the other coaches, to do that, man, that is unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable. Oh my gosh. He had one or two other stories there, but I'm gonna stop there as I've got tears running down my face. I hope you guys enjoyed today's pod. I just want to say, let's be thankful for every day we are alive. Nothing is guaranteed. Tell the people you love them as often as you can. You never know. You never know if it's going to be the last time you ever get to say it to them. Don't let them leave or go without saying it, because you just never know. If you like the show and my content, please consider supporting me by purchasing some merch from the refsneedlove2.com store. Got the new pro cards. I got some new car magnets that are pretty awesome. I love them. Purchases from the store help me cover the cost of doing this. I wish you good luck on the pitch, and I hope your next game is red card free.